This is our China Population Project by Nathan Yu and Wen Vo. The population of China is 1.41 billion. The arithmetic population is 150.44 people per kilometer squared of land area. The physiological population is 1,180.05 people per kilometer squared of arable land, which means that a lot of people farm for their jobs since there are so many people in arable land.
Surprisingly, China has a very low RNI considering how big China's population is. For example, India, which has roughly the same population as China, has a significantly higher RNI at around 1.1%. The long doubling time is a result of the Chinese government's population policies, which I'll talk more about during the population policy slide.
This population pyramid is representing China's population in 2020. This graph shows the population age composition in China. On the graph, 0 to 14-year-olds are slowly rising, 15 to 64-year-olds are slowly declining, 65 years and older are slowly rising. From the doubling time, we could see that it will take a very long time for the population to grow. This map shows the different ethnic groups in China and see how different they are between each other. The life expectancy for China is 76.3 years old. The most common way for people dying in China is strokes, ischemic heart diseases, and COPD, while cancer is the leading cause of the death in Chinese Americans. The IMR is 11.2 deaths for every 1,000 live births. This graph shows the total fertility rate of China in 2019, which is 1.7. This graph shows the mortality rate of China in 2019, which is 6.8. Natural hazards. Floods, earthquakes, and typhoons affected the people and the economy of China. These graphs show the natural disaster damage and fatality during the natural hazards. From both of these graphs, we can tell that in 2008, the CDR spiked for that year. This graph shows the amount of natural hazards that happened in the past, and we can see earthquakes and floods are the major hazards that China received.
China has a command economy, meaning that the government controls the prices of goods and services, which could explain why China's economic freedom score is so low. China has one of the highest GDPs in the world due to its large population, leading to a larger workforce. This chart shows China's economic freedom score over the last 5 years. As you can see, their economic freedom score has decreased since 2020, most likely because of COVID-19, making it harder for people to start a business. Other than the creation of better healthcare programs, the Communist Party has also created more food sources by farming. For this reason, families wanted to have more children to work on the farms, causing an increase in birth rate. The Great Leap Forward was an attempt at trying to industrialize China. It ended up causing the Great Chinese Famine since there were not enough people working on farms. The open door policy allowed foreign businesses to set up in China, resulting in an increase in migration to China. The one-child policy made it so that every family could only have one child. This also led to a gender imbalance because male children were preferred over females. This graph displays China's total population since the 1950s. As a result of the Great Chinese Famine and the Great Leap Forward previously mentioned, there is a noticeable drop in population around the 1960s. China is currently in stage 4 of the demographic transition model because of the one-child policy controlling China's crude birth rate and large population causing economic growth. However, in the past decade, over 200 million people have moved to the urban areas of China. This graph illustrates China's birth and death rate since the 1950s. Again, there is an increase in crude death rate and a decrease in crude birth rate during the Great Chinese Famine and the Great Leap Forward. This chart is a comparison of the total fertility rate between China and other countries. China's total fertility rate initially starts very high, but decreases as China begins to industrialize and urbanize. Even though birth control was advocated when China had a population of around 650 million, China's crude birth rate continued to increase until the one-child policy was implemented. The later, longer, fewer campaign was initially used to decrease China's total fertility rate, but it later evolved into the one-child policy. The two-child policy was recently implemented to increase China's total fertility rate back to the ideal amount of 2.1.
Air quality. Factories and transportation burns fossil fuels that results into smog, which pollutes the air in China that may give civilians lung cancer. Water treatment. Dumping human and industrial waste in the ocean to pollute the water, which makes some water not usable for everyday use. Food production. Many food sources in China are being poisoned because of waste entering the food supply for animals that citizens need to survive, since that is their source of food. This graph compares the amount of air pollution between the US and China, and we can see that China's air quality is 10 times worse than the US air quality. These graphs show the water quality grade 4 to 5 and 5 plus is undrinkable water or not usable in China. This graph shows the amount of people with food disease and the amount of casualties affected from that disease in 2019. And this is our works cited.